Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Nerd Ensemble. I'm one of your co-hosts, Mr. Don Kovac, and I'm here with my much more awesome co-host, Mr. Brett Dean. Brett, how are you, big fiery buddy?
I am salty as hell today, but we've got a lot to talk about in a short amount of time, so we will get to it here on the Nerd Ensemble.
I feel like we should have that little song. So today, as we talked about last week's show, it's kind of nice to say last week's show because that meant it was only a week ago. Or ish. But at any rate, today was Apple's spring event, or we'll go with March 2022 event. And it's kind of cool to be following up an event by talking about the event. Something we've done before, but it's been a while. At any rate, the event was not as short as some, but certainly under an hour, and it featured quite a lot. For those of you who may have been peeking at the rumor mill, if you follow some of the big wigs, the Mark Gurmans of the world, particularly, and the John Prosters of the world, they nailed it in terms of what we got today. We got an iPhone. Well, should we discuss stuff, or should I just throw it all out there and you're gonna throw in your 2 cents? What do you think, buddy?
I mean, throw it all out there. Let everybody know what happened today, and we'll pick up the pieces afterwards.
Sounds good. All right. So, and if you can see, I don't know if everybody can see the background there. It's very apropos. So today, Apple announced not one, not two, not three, but 4 new items. The first one being the iPhone SE 3rd generation. And that phone hasn't been updated, I think, since 2020, I want to say. So it was past due, and it's keeping the same iPhone 8 style design with glass back, glass front, but now featuring ceramic shield glass, such as the same glass as in the iPhone 13 line that we have. And it is supposed to make it more drop and scratch resistant, but particularly more shadow resistant. Scratch resistance, we'll see. And it has the A15 Bionic chip, so it is significantly faster than its predecessor. It also has 5G in it. 5G, that's 5Gs. And it supposedly has better battery life. Still the same 4.7-inch screen. And the same 12 megapixel camera on the back. Same, I want to say 7 megapixel camera in the front. And definitely is a nice update for folks who want that entry-level iPhone. And in the event, Apple particularly mentioned how during the iPhone 13 launch, it brought in the most new iPhone customers in the last 5 cycles. So they're trying to capitalize on this by updating the SE, which is a really good value, all things considered, because it has the Touch ID for those folks who want it. It's a smaller size overall, not as small as my Mini, but it's close. And it's a very familiar design. It's been around since 2014 in this current form. So it's one that people know. 3 colors, Starlight, Midnight, Brett's 2 favorite colors, and of course Product Red. And of course still has
that said, Starlight actually is a really nice color. I make fun of the naming scheme, but it really is nice. I've got it on the iPad Mini, and I would continue to buy that color. It's really it's a nice softer alternative to a gold or the aluminum silver color.
Right. It's like a mixture of both, basically, in some ways. Yeah, I agree with you. It is a neat little color. So that was the first one. It is priced at $429, so a little bit more. But of course, carriers could be offering it with different options. You can pre-order starting this Friday, and orders will be available starting next Friday on the 18th. So that was the first thing. Alongside of that, something that's become a little bit more of a regular thing nowadays is putting a new color of the iPhone, the current main iPhone line. Last year we got the purple iPhone 12, and this year we are getting the green iPhones 13 and Alpine green or something iPhones 13 Pro. So what's different this time around is you can get a new color in both the 13 line and the 13 Pro line. And they're, of course, slightly different from the midnight green iPhone 11 Pro that I had a couple of years back. A little bit brighter, a little bit more vivid. So those are also available this coming Friday to order, and then orders will start shipping next Friday, or getting in people's hands, I should say. So that's it for iPhone. Any thoughts?
No, I gotta say it's a pretty good value. I wasn't super happy that they raised the price on that one to $449.
429.
Or $429. $399 was just a really nice sweet spot. You know, anything that ends in 99 still has a nice psychological barrier. 429 kind of crosses over that, and it's just kind of in no man's land. I don't know. I mean, they've got marketing gurus that probably told them that it's going to be fine, and they're going to sell gajillions of them, which they will. But it's a good value still when you consider that it's got a really high-powered processor in it that will just scorch even the best flagship Android phones, you know. And it's on, and Apple puts it on everything from their Pro all the way down to their budget iPhone. That's pretty cool. It's one thing they do really nicely. So, yeah, it's a worthy upgrade, and great for a certain, you know, segment of the population.
Yeah, 100%. I know folks that just will live and die by the home button. So it still has the Touch ID home button for those folks that still want that. So a good choice for that first iPhone for family members as well. Anyway, moving on, we had the introduction of the more updated iPad Air. Keeps the same design as we got back in 2020, with the all screen sides. The bezels are a little larger than the iPad Pro, but not too bad. And it still has the Touch ID home button that it introduced back in 2020. Now has a 12 megapixel ultra wide front facing camera, so it can do, wait for it, center stage. So that now all of the iPads that are currently sold can do center stage. And it now, and this was where one of the latest little nuggets dropped, is it now features the M1 processor in it. So for $599, you can get into the M1 processor, which is surprising at first, but there's a strategy here, and I think it's going to be really interesting if this strategy comes to fruition.
The colors are cool. I like I like the pre-existing ones, and they added that cool turquoise to it also.
Yeah.
That's kind of a neat one. I hope that kind of permeates through the rest of the product line. Maybe even see a watch in that color at some point.
Yeah,
would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
One thing I want to let you know, Don, is your mic got a little strange. It's doing the crackle thing, so I don't know if you want to reset something there. And I'll kind of banter here for just a minute.
How about now?
Still doing it.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, the iPad's getting the M1 is really interesting. I don't know where they're going with that, but it's a pleasant surprise that a mid-range iPad, sort of the iPad for everyone, that wants a solid main tablet. Like if you want a good main tablet and you're going to do quite a bit of stuff on there, maybe even make it your travel computer, then the iPad Air is now well powerful. You know what I mean? Like it's got you covered with that M1 upgrade. So that's kind of cool. That I was not expecting that. I was expecting maybe to come into parity with where the iPhones are at, upgrade to about that level, but now they have surpassed that and are right up there in terms of horsepower with the iPad Pro. That's kind of neat.
Yeah. And how's this? Does it sound better now?
It's good. Now it's good.
Good. Cool. I think the strategy here is when the iPad Pros get their next update, they'll feature the M2 processors in them, and thus pushing them ahead of the iPad Air again in terms of overall processing power. So yeah, now we're talking about an 18-month-old processor that's slowly making its way down the line. And yeah, I think mobile gaming is a very popular use of the iPad Air, and now that's just going to make that way better for folks who are into that.
Yeah, that's an application that I hadn't thought of. I'm not big into gaming. I do just a little bit of like casual gaming, mainly when I'm sitting waiting to do other things. And yeah, I see what you mean. That would be, if you're heavy into that, that's good news for you.
Yeah. Like I'm sitting here with my 2018 12.9-inch iPad Pro, and I'm even starting to notice that I have to start changing some of the Minecraft settings on it to make it run as well as it used to before. So yeah, thinking, oh man, the M1 would be just like a huge leap forward for Bedrock Minecraft. So yeah, so
is
that's
it at a
good.
place now where you could say, as a longtime iPad Pro user, are you kind of getting to a place now where you could say, I could make the iPad Air sort of my main tablet?
Yes. Because I know, for a long time there, we kind of did iPad versus Mac, and you were Mr. Mac and I was Mr. iPad, and we're, no, that's over. That's so over. And the renaissance of the Mac has really helped that. But I think the only thing that I would miss is the size of this for reading music. That to me is like, yeah, okay, I can do, I mean, it's great for watching videos and stuff like that too. But then again, I sit there and I watch videos just fine on my iPhone 13 mini. So like, I can totally deal with the smaller screen, and I could for reading music too. This is just makes it a lot easier. So yeah, I would definitely take a harder look at that if this thing died and I had to replace it. So
yeah. All right.
So that's iPad.
Yeah. What else have we got here?
So, of course, the part we were all waiting for is what do they have for the Mac? And of course, Tim threw it to Johnny, not Johnny Cerrugi, John Turnus, who is the VP of Mac hardware and has introduced most of the new, if not all of the new Macs over the last several years. And he talked about how we've got more to go through here, and late breaking rumors were that there was going to be a high powered Mac Mini. Well, if you look there in the lower right hand corner there, we now have the high powered Mac Mini, and it's now named the Mac Studio. And this is where the Mac Mini is just taken to a whole nother level. So we have the Mac Studio, which is powered by the M1 Max chip from the M1 MacBook Pros that were released in the fall, of which I had for a while. And that is the base option, as well as now we have the M1 Ultra chip, which is exactly what the rumors had previously pointed to, is that they've taken two M1 Max chips, connected them together with a proprietary connector, and they now function as one singular chip with 20 cores of CPU, 48 cores of GPU, and what would that be? 32 cores of neural engine, I want to say. I'll have to double check my numbers on that. Up to 64 cores of GPU, up to 128 gigabytes of unified memory, and 800 gigabytes a second of memory bandwidth, which is bonkers. Just bonkers. Compared to what we had before. So now here's where things got a little bit crazy. So on the Mac Studio, you have an array of ports. So let me go over those really quick. On the back, you have 4 Thunderbolt 4 ports, 10 gig Ethernet port, 2 USB-A ports, an HDMI port, a high-resolution headphone or audio jack. And then you flip it to the front, and you have, if you have the M1 Max version, you have 2 more USB-C ports and an XDSC card slot. So lots of ports. The main difference comes in if you get the M1 Ultra, those 2 USB ports on the front go from USB-C to Thunderbolt 4. So you do get a little bit more speed in there for that part. So definitely a lot of connectivity. It's got Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.0 built in, or 5, whatever version Bluetooth is on right now.
Ports are back.
Yeah. After complaining, rightfully so, about the removal of ports, what don't you have here?
Apple's like, have some ports. We've got ports.
Have some more
ports in the front, ports in the back.
I feel like we could make a tune out of that. Maybe a nerdy rap tune about it.
Yeah.
But let's not, because we don't want to embarrass ourselves anymore. So now here's where the tricky part comes in. What do you use to drive this display? We've talked many times about how the Pro Display XDR is just a bonkers, overdone piece of hardware. Well, they also introduced the Studio Display, and the Studio Display is a 27-inch, probably an IPS LED display. Can feature over 1 billion colors, 14.7 million pixels, so PPI of 218, if I recall correctly. Gonna look good. 600 nits of brightness, P3 color, true tone. Also has that chip that we had discussed. It has an A13 Bionic in it, because they're claiming that not only does it have a 12 megapixel front-facing camera, the first Mac camera capable of center stage, and it also has the A13 to help with the ISP for said camera. It also has 4 built-in woofers, I want to say, and 2 built-in tweeters, and a 3 mic array, all built into the screen, and connects directly to any new Mac via Thunderbolt 4. It has 3 stand options. You can go with, it would look just like a 24-inch iMac, where it can it's got the foot there, right? But for, I want to say, another $400, you can get it. The original stand does tilt, but the $400 option allows you to both raise it and lower it, as well as tilt it. So a la the Pro Display XDR, but not $1,000, only $400. Woot. And of course, it has the VESA mount option as well, which you could do portrait mode or landscape mode. Sorry, portrait, landscape. So all that coming to at a starting price of $1,500. So in terms of, when you compare this to the most direct competitor that I can think of, the LG 5K Ultrafine 27-inch, that was $1,299 when that originally came out, and was pretty much that price for its entire run. So for $300 more, you get a significantly better display. Is it mini LED? No, they would have said something if it was. But it is definitely a nice looking display. You can see it has very much looks like the Pro Display XDR in terms of its size and its the smallness of the bezels. So it would look nice alongside of just about any. Oh, sorry, $1,599. My apologies. It's got 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports on the back, so it can actually charge up to a 96 watt. The MacBook Pro 14-inch that I had, it can fast charge a MacBook Pro 14-inch. So it's a really, and a 6 speaker setup on there, 4 force canceling woofers, and 2 high performance tweeter with support for spatial audio with Dolby Atmos.
The A13 Bionic chip in there seems like a lot of chip to do just one task. So is it in there doing something else?
It's not just doing one task.
It's not just doing one.
No, okay. It's doing the video. It's doing the microphone stuff. It's doing the audio output stuff.
Okay.
So and the center stage stuff, a part of that.
Okay, I knew it was in there for the camera, but I didn't know that it was also managing some of that other stuff.
Yeah. So as far as what they talked about, I'm pretty sure that's, and allowing it to do spatial audio and with Dolby Atmos. So what that would sound like, not in your ears, who knows? But it's got to sound better than built-in speakers and probably any other display in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I think with the adjustable height stand, I think it's pretty compelling.
Yes.
Oh gosh, I wish it was just a little bit bigger of a screen. For the price, especially. However, the fact that you basically get an iPhone inside your monitor with that A13 is something that nobody else can offer. So, I mean, even if it's in there doing anything for image recalculation and improvement, it's probably going to be really nice. I can't imagine a picture on another screen outside of an OLED,
or even a mini LEDs. Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is going to be the best LED IPS LED display that you're going to be able to get, and it also has the nano texture glass option for reducing glare. Most people don't need that.
My friend Ted Holtz in the chat says, "How does all this compare to my Pentium 2 processor?"
Oh, well, things have changed a lot, Ted, since the Pentium 2. That was back in the 90s, I think.
Yeah, I think that was the one that they they carried on the snail's back and
nice,
and torched at some point.
Yeah.
Like all of the money that you will spend on these products.
Yes.
Just light those Benjamins on fire right now.
There you go. So I think so a couple of things you'd mentioned. We're gonna shift back to this Mac Studio for a minute here, because we haven't talked about the price yet. But you mentioned I got to see some benchmarks. Okay. So they talked a lot about these things. Oh, look, delivery estimates already slip into April. That's crazy. Yeah, that thing is going to be crazy. Up to 2.5 times faster CPU and 3.4 times faster GPU. They don't really specify as compared to what devices that they're saying that they're kind of comparing those against.
Yeah, that was a big point of confusion. Is it because they started out by comparing it to the Mac Pro, and there are so many different variations and combinations that you could get to be the Mac Pro. Are they talking about the highest end one? Then they also slipped in there a comparison to the computer that I'm currently recording on, which is 2020's 10-core i9 iMac.
Right.
And how did it compare to that? I can't remember.
So here, let's pick Photoshop. Okay. So the Mac Studio with the M1 Ultra will supposedly do Photoshop processing of well-threaded filters, whatever that means, 2.5 times faster.
That's the Ultra or the
That's
Max?
the Ultra. That's the Ultra. 2.2 times faster with the Max. So here you go. Final Cut Pro. Here's something that will speak to you. GPU performance. Okay. So I'm assuming your 27-inch iMac has the Radeon Pro 5700 XT graphics in it. The 8K render speed with the Mac Studio, twisty words, 3.5 times faster. And with the M1 Ultra, 5 times faster. Compressor, faster ProRes transcode. So the M1 Max Studio, 7.5 times faster. The M1 Ultra Max Studio, 12.6 times faster. I know you're not shooting in a lot of ProRes, but the idea there is it is giving you an idea of how much faster some of these tasks would be with the Mac Studio. Even the lowly base model. Now here we get into the price. Okay. So, and this is another interesting. So we talked about the ports, right? You can, on the M1 Max, the M1 Ultra, you can plug in up to 4 Pro Display XDRs and a 4K TV. Crazy. Right? So it can, I mean, it's compared to your 27-inch iMac, even the base model M1 Max is going to be a huge upgrade for you. I mean, think about, for some of the stuff you do on Final Cut, think about how much faster it is on your M1 MacBook Air. And then with the M1 Ultra, of course, we're talking certain things being 8 times more power than the M1 that is in your MacBook Air. And it is in my MacBook Pro.
Yeah, it's kind of like I envision my 27-inch iMac is kind of like a 58-year-old rocket scientist who's just like just scratching his head trying to figure out something really complex, and it takes him a good 3 hours or something to figure out this equation. And then the M1 Ultra or even the M1 Max is like this 13-year-old genius prodigy that comes up with the same answer in about a couple minutes, So it's like, it shouldn't happen, it shouldn't work, but somehow it does, and that's where we're at. That's where we're at with this is, we're so used to Intel chips and them sounding like they're working really hard, because you hear the fans going, the heat is just pouring out of these machines. Your kilowatt hours on your house, if you go outside and look at the thing, are just going crazy. The dial is going. You're just using up entire forests of electricity. And then there's the little M1 Max that's barely drawing any juice and kicking this other thing's butt. So
I'm curious to see when reviewers and stuff get their hands on it, what what kind of, how much more powerful that they're going to be able to push them as compared to like the M1 MacBook Pros that came out in the fall, because of course those are battery powered and these are plugged in. Okay. So you'd think that these would be able to be driven harder.
Yeah. Now, okay. What kind of screwball do you have to be at this point to buy a Mac Pro?
Well, I'm sure the Mac Pro is going to be better for very specific workflows, particularly that require Intel. So yeah, there are going to be people that need to buy that. They actually did release a new graphics card option for that 2019 MacBook Pro today. Kind of snuck that in there. Because of course, even at the end of the event, they mentioned there's one more computer coming, and it's the Mac Pro.
Right.
So this is meant to be that next level without getting into Mac Pro territory, which, based on this, is just gonna be insane. And they mentioned we've got one more M1 family member to come, and then they introduced the Ultra. So there have been rumors about a quad die M1 Max chip,
which the Mac Pro is probably the only computer that has the internal space that you could do that.
They could have built this to have it in there. They chose not to,
I guess. And maybe at some point it will get it. But,
but it doesn't need it.
Right. And
That's the thing.
so how upgradable will the Mac Pro be? You know, is it going to retain the same form factor, the new cheese grater design? I would assume that it is, because that's a design that people like, and they only just came out with it, what, a year, 2 years ago?
2019.
Oh gosh, that long. Well, anyway,
Mm-hmm.
I still consider it a pretty new design, at least in terms of Apple refresh cycles. You know, I would guess they stick with it. What do you think?
No, I think all the rumors have pointed to it's going to be a much smaller version. So it might still have the cheese grater on the front, but
Mhm.
it literally does not need anywhere
Yeah.
near. That's like, getting a tiny goldfish and putting him in a bathtub and saying, "Here you go."
Right.
Doesn't
But
need all that.
pros like upgradable things like hard drives, being able to throw more
Sure.
drives in there, customize, what goes inside there, put in different expansion cards, things like that. I don't know.
Sure. But you don't, the number one reason that the two reasons that the cheese grater Mac Pro are so big is one, heat displacement, because the Intel chips that are in there run super hot and give off a lot of heat, and so do a lot of the components in there as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, it is going to be very interesting what sort of story they tell with this upcoming Mac Pro and what's going to be possible with it in terms of upgradability. They mentioned modular in the uh, Mac Studio
Mhm.
introduction, and I was doing a little reading earlier, and I've not seen any evidence of what about it is modular.
Right.
They said that about the 2019 Mac Pro, and yeah, you can swap out you can add in and take out drives, like you said. You can
Mhm.
video cards, you can swap those in and out.
I wonder if they just mean like you don't have to sell your display. You can keep your display and off goes
Yeah,
your old Mac Studio for a new one someday.
yeah, that's very possible. That doesn't really scream modular to me. Like, to me, it makes me wonder, like, okay, would they ever do a thing where you could actually swap out the motherboard and swap in, the
Yeah.
M2 version of this chip? Yeah, it doesn't seem like them. But I guess we'll see. So let's get to the price, because I know this is where you were getting a little bit
Salty.
concerned. Yeah, salty. The M1 Max version is going to start at $1,999, and that base model is going to get you the M1 Max 10-core CPU, 24-core GPU, 16-core neural engine, and it's going to come with 512 gigs of storage and 32 gigabytes of unified memory. You can update that with 32 cores of GPU and up to 64 gigs of shared unified memory and up to 8 terabytes of storage in that model. Okay. Now, if you then upgrade even further to the M1 Ultra chip, the base model of that is going to run you $3,999, $3,999. For that, you get 20-core CPU with 16 performance cores, 4 efficiency cores, 48-core GPU, 32-core neural engine, and of course, as I mentioned before, 800 gigabytes of second memory bandwidth. You can configure that up to 64-core GPU. The base model of that Ultra starts with 64 gigs of memory, and you can get it up to 128 gigs. It starts with a 1 terabyte SSD, and you can configure it up to 8 terabytes, which, as you saw over there, if you max all of it out, including the studio display, $11,000. Oh, and then of course they released a new full-size 10-key keyboard with the Touch ID that is now black again. And of course a new black Magic Mouse and black trackpad, all sold separately. So there you go.
I don't know how much of a deal that is. I mean,
$8,000 for the highest end Mac Studio before the display and accessories. Yeah. But yes, I agree. The cost of this stuff, now we're like old school Mac days where it was, 10, 12 grand to buy a Mac. But that was the price of entry. This is, the most powerful Mac you can buy right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's just a new paradigm that I don't like. 2 years ago, I got this thing for a hot minute. It was the fastest Mac that you could buy for most tasks. And it came with a flippin' keyboard and mouse, or trackpad if you prefer. Screen, CPU for $3,500. Yeah. You barely get in the door for that now.
You can get the display and the base Mac Studio for that.
Yep. Which, as I pointed out, is last year's chip. So, you're getting a year-old chip that's still fast. It's pretty fast.
It's not a year-old chip. It's the second fastest thing on the market right now. Still.
Yeah. Third if you include the Mac Pro, like fully configured.
Sure. Yeah, right. That's true. You're right. And what does that run? I mean, yeah.
Right. But it's for similar money, you're like three rungs down on their pecking order now. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's kind of a drag.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I think they certainly raised the prices for the MacBook Pros. Not a ton comparatively to their predecessors, and for a few $100 more depending on the configuration, you knew you were getting a significantly faster computer. And in this case, you don't need to buy the new stuff, like the new trackpad and all that stuff. Like for what would be about $4,000 with the height adjustable stand, no nano texture option. I mean, you're getting a computer that's a lot faster than what you have there, like a lot.
Yeah.
Especially for the stuff you do.
There's a lot of sticker shock in the comments on some of these websites that are announcing the new products, such as the pros can keep this. Why did they replace the iMac 27 with this overpriced getup? I'm a professional user, but neither I nor the company I work for can justify or afford these kind of prices or anywhere near for such a setup. Please, can we just have a 27-inch iMac that's an upgrade from the current M1 24-inch? Yeah, duh.
Mm-hmm.
I ordered the low-end Mac Studio with 24. Okay. Ouch. This is too expensive. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot. You're right.
So
And I mean, yeah, it's a lot. And they did discontinue your 27-inch iMac.
mm-hmm.
And they normally don't discontinue something unless they have replaced it.
Right.
Unless you're the HomePod, but that's a different story.
Right.
There's a mini version. We both have the mini version of the product that no longer exists. But at any rate, yeah, it's a lot. I agree with you. Like, I would say the advantage that you don't need to buy the display and the computer at once. Do you want to? Sure. Because you know they're going to work together really, really well. 100%. But do you need to do that? No. Is that different than, like, if you're, see, this is the thing, like, we over here, we have the 2014 iMac that you had before you got that one there. And that, my lady's just going to run it into the ground. It still works okay, today still. But that, when the computer is old, the screen is fine.
Mm-hmm.
What do? Well, Apple doesn't let you use target display. Target display mode is gone as of that computer. So you can't just use it as a second monitor. So on the one hand, yeah, you're paying a lot more for those two separate products.
Mm-hmm.
But when the computer goes bad, if you're a person who wants to use a computer and wants to upgrade it more frequently, at least in this setup where you have the studio display and the Mac Studio, you decide, okay, I like them both, but let's say in 2 years you want to upgrade the studio computer, but the display is still fine. You can sell the computer and you have a perfectly fine display that will work with any other device that you have, including your M1 Air.
Apple, as we do, I think we can both safely say that studio display that they released today, if you buy it now, it will probably not change for the next 5 years, would be my guess. The price may go down a little bit, but
it's possible. It's possible.
I can see that thing, because the last display stayed on the market unchanged for eons, and the one before did too. So it's very likely that this one, as it currently sits, will look exactly the same and be available in exactly the same configuration 5 years from now. Possibly even with that A13 chip in there, because if there's no need to improve upon that, then they'll just leave it the same, which I can definitely see. Now here's another one of my beefs with the price is they are sourcing these products now from themselves. They're not going to Intel, and they're not dependent on them for the prices being set on what the chips cost and all that. They could have chosen to put any price point on these chips that they wanted to. It's a totally arbitrary decision. I don't think for a second that there is a $2,000 increase in cost in the manufacturing process between that Max and Ultra chip. I just don't. I don't think there's a $2,000 difference in the manufacturing of that. That was a totally arbitrary decision on their part, and it's too big of a leap. They determined that, well, this thing's really fast. It benches up near the Mac Pro. Let's make it a Pro price. And that's what they did.
Can you? I mean,
Best
yeah.
case. That's my best case.
I mean that makes a lot of sense. You're right. That makes a lot of sense. And for most people, they're not going to need that. That is a pro product. That, I mean, it's when something is the fastest of anything that you can buy at the time. How is that not, a pro level product? How is that not considered a pro product?
Yeah.
And first of all, there's a lot of computer in between that $19.99 and that $39.99. There is. You can go in and you can build to order all sorts of things in between there. And get it for less.
And the problem is, though, it's not just that price now. It's that plus at least $1,500 more dollars,
Doesn't have to be.
Right. I mean, you could slap a 1080p POS monitor on it. You could. Or even
you don't want to.
No. You could slap a cheap Dell 4K monitor on there, but then you feel like you've done something wrong. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I bought this extremely fast computer. Now I'm gonna put this shit monitor, to go with it, and
So you have
that quandary.
I hear you. You're right. And, so like you can do a build to order option. Like I'm looking at right now, like the M1 Max with 32 GPU cores, 64 gigs of memory, and a terabyte of storage, $27.99. Which is interesting because that's about the price of that M1 Max MacBook Pro 16-inch that I had. I'm sorry, that's less. It's about $500 less. I apologize. So for $500 less, you're getting that much power. If you have a screen to plug it into, you're good to go. And I would argue again, having played with that thing, did I really push it to its limits? Absolutely not, because I don't need to. There's nothing that I do that would push that thing to its limits unless I'm going out of my way to do that. So I would argue that I see what you mean about feeling more feeling more prosumer now than used to feel like you were pro. You're getting so much computer for so much money.
So much money. Like, okay, here's the prices with education discount. Those of you that are lucky enough to be able to
that's right. I forgot about that.
All right, so let's select the crappy base model with last year's chip. We'll go in and pick that one.
It's not last year's chip. Okay. All right. I'm going to argue with you on that a lot.
I never want the bottom of the barrel one, so I have to take this one right here. My next jump up is not is $180, and then if you want to go to the Ultra, $1,200. So I'm going to go with the 180. And then base memory. Come on, I mean that's not future proofing it. I gotta have 64 gigs of memory.
1879.
What's that?
1879 and 2 gigs. Look at that, 2 terabytes of storage.
Right. So you have to, because I mean my current iMac right now has 2 terabytes of solid state storage, so I gotta have that much. I mean that's just a lateral move. That's not even improving anything. That's just staying where I'm at.
It's not improving your storage, but it's improving a lot of hell else.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm at $28.79. Okay, continue. You know what? I'll just take the standard glass. Thank you very much. And then this whole mess right here, because I'm already at a scorching 4378, and I've still only just picked one of the base models. I haven't gone to the Ultra. And then I think, oh, you know what? This right now functions as my 27-inch iMac does. So were I to do this, again, nothing would improve. I would still only be able to tilt it forwards and back as I do now. So you know what? I'd kind of like to see what that height adjustable thing can do, because I'd like to be able to see over this towering screen on my desk. And bring it down. Unfortunately, you know, even if this thing was at its lowest point, I don't think it would be any lower than, you see what I'm saying? Like if this were to go down here, it wouldn't actually be that much or any lower than the regular, because this stand is actually quite a bit taller. So you're really getting extra height. You're not getting the ability to bring it down lower. So maybe I don't want that at all. So now I'm stuck with that. Unless I get the Visa mount.
Yeah, I would say if that's your aim, then you should be doing Visa.
Okay. And then how much is a good arm to put on my desk so it doesn't fall off and smash?
That's a great question, but I'm sure there's.
Okay.
I'm sure that would end up being a little bit cheaper.
Okay. So anyway, let's just say for craps and giggles, I just go with the normal one. 4378. And when I click add to bag, here I'm feeling all these conflicts of horrible emotions. One, I've just bought a base model, kind of. And two, I just spent $4,300. Oops, I'm sorry. I swore.
It's okay.
I just got us an explicit rating. Anyway, I just spent $4,300.
Yeah.
So now I'm having buyer's remorse. And I didn't even really get something that I was really happy with. You know what I mean? I feel like I settled in a lot of ways. So
yeah. I hear you.
I don't feel like I got a deal anywhere on this. And Apple needs to know that. They need to know that people, at least from the few comments that I just scanned a few minutes ago, they're not amazed by the deal that they're getting. Because with the iMac as it was, the 27-inch, you always felt like you were getting a bit of a deal, going all the way back to when they put the Retina display in there, and you thought, oh, geez, I'm getting a computer basically for free with this gorgeous, gigantic 5K 27-inch monitor, because that was basically the price of what 5K monitors were going for then. If you got the base, let's say, iMac of the time, it was about $1,800 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And for a nice 5K monitor back then, it was a little less than that. So you were getting a deal. It was a good deal. I don't know. $4,300 for one step up from the base model does not a deal make in my book. I get all the negative emotions from that. Do you see what I'm saying? Negative emotion. Oh, I didn't get the one I really wanted. I had to settle for something less. And two, oh my God, I just spent $4,300.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Two psychological barriers there.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is really weird that there is no 27-inch option iMac replacement. That is very weird. And the fact that they discontinued the old one, it tells me it's not coming back.
Right.
So yeah, I agree with you. But you're thinking about it too much on paper too. I don't know if spending a week putting this through its paces is going to make you feel different in terms of actual day-to-day use, because of how much faster. I mean, you have an M1 Mac, and you know how fast that thing can be comparatively, and then even at what you say the second level up with the M1 Max 32. I mean, that thing is going to run circles around your iMac and it's going to run circles around your MacBook Air.
True, but
and it's going to be a lot cheaper than any Mac Pro that they announce
definitely
in the spring and the fall, summer. Sorry,
but I would say this: every Mac I've ever bought destroys the previous Mac that I'm replacing. You know what I mean? So like the one that's sitting on my desk now is a huge upgrade over the one. It runs circles around the one I replaced it with. That, you know what I mean? So
right.
The
and
fact
the one
that this new thing does run circles around this one is nice, but like I would expect that it would, and I've never had to pay 40.
Not in 6 years. Yeah. Your old one was a 2014. Your new ones. So yeah, again, that doesn't make it necessarily easier to swallow the $43.78 price, but that price in 2 years is not going to be any easier to swallow. And what the computer in 2 years is going to be not going to be as much of a leap forward as this one is compared to yours. Just giving another perspective. We got a comment there. I saw that.
Oh yeah, I think my friend was trolling us there. So
well. Stop trolling.
I'll hold it back. So yeah, I think we've got a good initial look at this stuff. One of us should probably make a trip to an Apple store and kind of goof around with one of these in person, and because oftentimes when you go, especially with the displays, the ads can't do them justice, so you got to see them in person.
Yeah, and what's interesting is I still to this day have not seen a Pro Display XDR in person.
That's incredible. They're hiding them. They don't want it out there with the unwashed masses. They don't want people poking at it and dropping it, and yeah, they must be really delicate. It's that nano texture screen. They don't want people touching it.
I guess. And I've been to. I mean, maybe there was one at the Michigan Avenue store that I was at a couple of years ago, but I don't remember even if it was out even then. So, yeah, it's really weird. It's like walking into I can walk into like a Jaguar store and like at least touch them.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah,
but at any rate. So yeah, I think we'll definitely have to. I mean, we'll have to try it. I'm very curious to try the display. To be honest, I don't need I'm not a desktop person. To me, I want the laptop so I can move where I need to move. But the display, I'm kind of curious to try it. So, all right. Well, I think that's all of our thoughts on this for now. Of course, there's going to be so much more to digest as reviews come out and as these things hit the wild on the 18th. So certainly we'll digest a little bit more. We'll talk behind the scenes more, and hopefully have some more to share with y'all coming up in the next week or two.
Yeah. Leave us a comment or two if you watch this and you have some thoughts, agree, disagree. We don't care.
Sure. We're good with whatever. We can handle without the trolling. But other than that, we do appreciate engagement, and we appreciate y'all for tuning in and supporting the show on our Facebook page. So with that, Brett, it's been the slice, man.
All right, man. Sounds good. We'll see you soon.
We'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Peace.